Thank you very much for your kind welcome. I'm delighted to be here at this important symposium, the Coaching Academy. I commend the NSSU, the NCDA, the ICCE, and Sport for Tomorrow for your commitment to the integrity of sport and the development of coaches. I get excited when I get into an environment such as this because every one of us in this room, we're connected to sport in some way. If I had time, I would love to sit down with each of you and find out what your story is with sport. But I believe that at some point in your life, somehow you were introduced to sport and suddenly, somehow, there started to be a passion in your heart for the sport you were playing. I love looking at a slide like this. I see the words, the power of sport, but then I look out at the audience and I see people. Because all of us in here, we're in the people business. We're coaches, we're teachers, we're leaders. What do? We inspire, we motivate, we unite people. That gets us excited. It's why we love life. It's one of the key reasons. So when I have an opportunity to come to a place like this and hear about the initiatives that you have, the programs that many of you are in, I'm very, very pleased. Because to me, sport is a microcosm of life. Think about that. Sport is a microcosm of life. All the challenges that you might have every day in life, the thrills and the victories that you have in everyday life, guess what? All those experiences, you're having those in the world of sport. To me, I don't know if there's a greater venue to teach life lessons than sport. And when you think about it, though, it's you as the coach developers and the coaches that are making the difference. I love the quote from Nelson Mandela, and you can look at it, you can read it. I believe in it. I do believe that sport has the power to change the world. I do believe that sport speaks to people in a language they can understand. It's a universal language. It's what's connecting all of us in this room right now. It doesn't make any difference where we go in the world. Sport is a connector. And you as coaches need to be connectors. I like to say this. I talk about 3 C's. The first C is communication. Sport coaches, we have to be communicators, but we all communicate. There's never a time we're not communicating, either verbally or non-verbally. The key is we have to connect with people. So we communicate, that's the first C. The second C is we have to connect, but how do you do that? Well, the third word starts with the C too, because you show people that you care about them. When you show people that you care, suddenly it opens doors so that you can communicate and truly connect. like we all have to do as coaches. I've said a lot of really positive things about sport, but I also want you to know there's a bad side to sport. When I was a youth, I was very active in sport, and people would say, "Oh, Ralph, that's wonderful. Sport builds character." That's a myth. What sport really does, it reveals character. You can go online, you can pick up a paper almost every day and have examples of people acting very poorly in sport. The difference is this, it's coaches. It's coaches build character through effective teaching and through their role model. The title of my presentation is Building a Culture of Greatness in Sport, What Every Coach Must Know. And what I'm hoping that today we'll do is get core concepts. I'd like to introduce some core concepts, also a framework that we used at the United States Military Academy with great success. Actually, we called it a model. I took the model, and after I retired from West Point, I'm going into different situations, and now I call it a framework. Because it's a framework, because why it's working in the different places that I'm going is it can be adjusted to the context and the culture of any environment. And that's the key to it. It's connecting with people where you're at. They take the parts that they like, the core concepts, and turn it into a hybrid that fits what's going to work within their context and culture. The framework itself is called TLC, and the letters stand for talent, leadership, and character. And what it does, it unites those three things into one powerful force. And what it does is that force then is developing powerful behaviors. It's behavior-based and values-based that lead to greatness in sport and life. I mentioned to you what the title is as far as developing cultures of greatness, what every coach should know. Today I'm going to give some key points in 4 different areas, 4 different parts. I'm going to talk about what I think every coach should know as far as critical knowledge, what coaches should realize about developing great people, about building a strong structure, and also implementing a very, very productive process. Let's take part 1 with the critical knowledge. The 4 areas, you can see what I have up there on the slide. Let's start with know yourself. Many, many, many years ago, Aristotle said it best when he said, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. As I'm working with coaches in a coach development program, we always start with helping people truly understand themselves. It starts with a personal purpose. When we look at that whole concept of a personal purpose, we're looking at what are your greatest strengths? Right now, I want you to just think about, I call them signature strengths. every athlete I work with, every coach I work with, I want to know what they feel are their signature strengths. What are your two or three greatest strengths? So often we spend so much time as coaches identifying other people's strengths and weaknesses, we don't take the time to really look in the mirror and determine what are ours. Jot down 2 of your strengths right now, please. Think about it. Or if you don't have paper or pencil, just think about what are my 2 greatest strengths or what are my 3 greatest strengths? Then I always want to know, why are you doing what you do? Why are you coaching? Why are you going through a coach development program? Let's get to today. Why are you here? Why did you come today? And what do you hope that you can gain from this day or this symposium? Okay, I've given you a little bit of time to think about it. Now what I'd like you to do is turn to the person next to you and talk briefly about why are you here and what do you hope to get? I'll give you 2 minutes. Go ahead, just get to know where the person next to you, why are you here and what would you like to gain? Okay, thank you. Let me have your attention, please. I posed those questions to you because there's 4 questions that when I'm working with an athlete, I want to be able to connect with them and get their true responses to these 4 questions. Why are they playing? Why are they playing sport? Then I want to know, what do they want to achieve? My third question is, once I find out why they're playing, what they want to achieve is, what price are you willing to pay in order to reach what you want? I call it investments. What's your investment in order to get to where you want? Everyone says they want this. Oh, I want to be great. But guess what? Greatness has to be earned. And they need to understand, and you as a coach have to help them so they learn how and appreciate it and willingly pay the price for what they want. Then the 4th question I want to know, what have you done today in order to get 1 step closer to what that ultimate goal is? See, once I start getting that information from an athlete, now I can watch their actions. I can watch their behaviors. Then I can see, are they on track? Those 4 questions to me are so vital. But guess what? If you're coaching a team, now I want to know those 4 questions again, but now take it from a team perspective. Valuable information, and it helps you get that connection that I was talking about earlier with your athletes. Besides the personal purpose, personal values. Very important. Getting people to really think about, what do you want to be known for? What values are important to you? What do they look like? Then for coach developers, or for coaches, what are your core beliefs? Your core beliefs about leadership, about sport, about the purpose of coaching, how you define winning and success. A critical knowledge, a second piece, all coaches, I believe, need to know the ingredients of greatness. But it starts right here. How do you define success? In your mind right now, just think about, okay, fine, if I had to define that in one sentence, what would it be? Success to me, or success in sport, to me is this. It's an excellent starting point to make sure that you're on the right page for what you truly believe and want. I've been fascinated with the words success and greatness my entire life. My definition of success and actually greatness comes from a legendary basketball coach by the name of John Wooden. Men's basketball coach at the University of California at Los Angeles. UCLA won 7 consecutive national championships. Coach won 10 national championships total. Was selected by ESPN as the top coach of the 20th century in any sport. He won over 80% of his games, but guess what? Here's a real interesting thing about Coach Wooden. He never used the word winning with his team. He didn't talk to his team about, we have to win this game today. Because his definition of success, truly, if you look at it, is basically getting people to understand success is giving your best to be the best that you can be for the good of the team. Can we ask anything more than that? I don't believe so. So success to me is finding your players, connecting with them, getting them to give their ultimate best. I had this pyramid of success. Coach made this. Took him 14 years to put it together. There's 15 blocks. I had that as a secondary student in my bedroom. I looked at it every night. I met Coach for the very first time when I was in college. I was really fortunate. I worked for a head coach that was personal friends with Coach John Wooden. I spent time with him personally. He greatly, greatly influenced my life. If you're not familiar with him, please go online, do a search, look at the Pyramid of Success. A lot of great life lessons come out of this. Look at the very top. It says competitive greatness. That's where I get the word greatness. How do you define greatness? Basically, it's the ability to perform at your best during the most critical or crucial times. We're competitors. There's not a person in here that's not a competitor. You wouldn't be involved in sport if there wasn't something in you that loved competition. Now, when the stakes are at their highest, when it's the most critical game, the critical moment of a game, what we want more than anything else, we want to be at our best at that moment. And as coaches, we prepare players to be able to do that. Let's look at what makes great teams superior. When I was director of competitive sports at the United States Military Academy at West Point, my leader team and I, we did a 2-year study of the best teams and leaders in sport, in business, and the military. We were trying to determine the common behaviors and qualities of the best of the best. Took us a little bit of time, but we came up with 5 things. The best of the best, and we're talking about leaders, we're talking about the greatest teams. Number 1, they're trustworthy. Number 2, they know what they want and they pursue it with purpose, passion, and dedication. Number 3, they believe in themselves and their teammates. Number 4, they're mentally tough and they're focused. And number 5, and I love number 5, because when I look at the greatest teams, they have this ability. The players have a special way of making everyone around them better. So when we looked at the results of this, then we wanted to take it out of the sentence format and just put it into words. So we came up with 6 words. We just call them the essential qualities for greatness: trust, belief, commitment, mental toughness. We use the word grit, accountability, and caring. Real quick, the word grit. Angela Duckworth has an excellent book out. It's entitled Grit. She came to West Point, did a study, because we wanted to determine what were the most important factors, or what was the most important factor of why a student was able to go through 4 years of strenuous academic challenges, physical challenges, emotional challenges, and find a way to make it through one of the toughest schools, at least in America, to get through. It wasn't an IQ score. It wasn't their grade point averages. It wasn't a physical fitness test. It was grit. And grit, the way we define it and the way Angela defined it, it's the passion and perseverance for long-term goals. That's grit. And what she was working on at West Point is, and we believe this, we believe grit can be developed. It's not something you're born with. You're not born with more grit than the person seated next to you. Grit can be developed, and I'm a firm believer that grit can be developed through sport when coaches help develop it. Okay, right now, I'd like you to do a quick self-reflection. You see, we're really big in everything that we do, just like there's a scoreboard when you play a game. I think we always should have an internal scoreboard in order for us to always be challenging ourselves to be the very best. So what we did was we took the results from that West Point, we took the West Point findings, and then we incorporated this into an assessment for each individual athlete, or you can do it as a person. I do what I say I will do. I set goals for myself. I pursue my goals with purpose, passion, and dedication. I strongly believe in myself. See, as I'm getting information like this, I do this with athletes throughout the year as I'm working with them, because slowly but surely what we're doing is we're trying to get them to know themselves, and as I get to know them better, I hopefully can provide better tools to help them grow. And you can kind of see, I want them to give very honest assessments. And I assess them too. So they do their assessment, and then as a coach, you assess them. You sit down, and again, you're trying to define reality. I heard that earlier. I love that. I am a firm believer in acknowledging reality. Number 5, I strongly believe in my teammates. I stay committed despite setbacks and disappointments. I try to make everyone around me better. I have an optimistic and positive attitude. And number 9, a key question for me, because in a few minutes I'm going to talk about leadership, the importance of leadership and self-leadership. I like to find out early whether or not a young person sees themselves as being a leader. On an assessment like this, I believe in marginal gains. If a young person, if their score, let's say we determine that it's a 3 in one of those areas, then my next question then to them is this: what will it take in terms of behaviors for you to take that 3 and turn that into a 4? I don't tell them what they need to do. I ask them. I give them time to think about it. And then suddenly, when they come back, I learn from what they tell me. I put my thoughts into it, but guess what? They have just taken ownership of it. It's not me powering it down. Makes a huge difference. I did a similar investigation or a study. I wanted to take it outside of the military situation at West Point. After I retired, I took 5 national championship teams or world championship teams, the New Zealand All Blacks. I do Duke men's basketball, a Major League Baseball team, Kansas City, Ohio State won the national football championship, and then Golden State in the NBA. And it was real interesting because here's what the common things that I found with these teams. Number 1, they're talented. They have talented players. Talent's important, but talent alone is not enough. What these programs, they were built on core values. They emphasize leader development at all levels, assistant coaches, their players. Many of them had leadership groups. It was a formalized, intentional leader development program that coaches had for their athletes. And all the coaches were tuned into high performance behaviors. Let's take the word culture right now. All coaches, to me, need to really get it, all leaders need to really have a clear understanding of what culture is. What is it? I think it's the creative sum of all the people on a team. It's their shared values, their beliefs, their behaviors. Every team has a culture. And guess what? Every team has it. It either comes because it's an organized by the coach and the internal leaders, or it happens by chance. A culture either works for you or against you. It's like the engine of a team. It drives everything that happens in a team environment. I believe culture has 3 moving pieces: structure. Coaches provide a strong and enabling framework. The process is the series of actions or activities taken to achieve a desired result. Then you have people. And it's the people, the most important thing. It's the people that make the structure and the process work. But with the culture, you see all those things it's fluid. It changes every day. That's the exciting part of building cultures. You just can't check the block. I've got a great culture. Why? People change every single day. In order to have a great culture, it has to be consistent. Greatness occurs when all 3 parts are aligned and in harmony. One of the most difficult things to do. And that's why I love it. Because that's why there's so few great teams. To help with that process, just like we had an individual athlete assessment, we talk about the assessment for a team. To me, a team has a pulse. Just like the human body has a pulse, a team has a pulse. I would tell my assistant coaches, I want us to have a gauge. I want us to know what our team's pulse is every single day, because our team pulse consists of, in basketball, 12 individual pulses create the team pulse. So great coaches, you have to be aware of what's going on so that you can better connect with your athletes. This is something that we use right here, but it's all geared toward looking at it from a team perspective. I mentioned the New Zealand All Blacks. I believe they're one of the greatest dynasties ever in the history of sport. I'm spending time working in New Zealand at this time, had opportunities to talk with their previous head coach, their current head coach, did a leadership workshop with Richie McCaw last June, have met with some of the All Blacks. It's really fascinating. And if you look at it, this is a great book. It's called Legacy, What the All Blacks Can Teach Us About the Business of Life. I bring this up in every clinic or talk that I give. There's a lot of coaches in America right now that have ordered that book, and they contact me and they say, that book is right on. That's really good. You should take a look at it, but what the author, look at what he says about the All Blacks. When an opponent faces the All Blacks, they're facing a culture, an identity, an ethos, a belief system, and a collective passion and purpose beyond anything they have faced before. Can there be anything more powerful than that? The jersey. The whole thing with the jersey is, it's sacred. And it's your responsibility as a player to leave it in a better place than what it was when you got it. Tremendous pride. The haka, connecting the players to their ancestors. I love this. It's a character and a value-based system. Better people make better All Blacks. Culture starts at the top. Everything a leader or a head coach does either helps or hinders the creation of a culture. Here's the challenge that we're having in the places that I'm spending the majority of my time. Coach development programs do not spend a lot of time talking about creating cultures of greatness, significance, excellence, whatever word you want to use. Helping young coaches understand what needs to be done in order to build that culture. Know what produces great results? We call it the results pathway. We define results as things that are within our own control. We call outcomes are based on things that are within our control, but the things that are beyond our control, like the talent level of your opponent, officiating, weather conditions. We focus on helping our players control what they can. We say it all the time. Control what you can. Attitude, effort, behavior, emotions. As coaches, as leaders, have a small window of opportunity to produce results. The results pathway, and honestly, I think hopefully this may be one of the most important things I'm going to say today. I wish I knew this a long time ago. It would have helped me in my coaching career. What produces results? Behaviors. Okay? It's culture, but it's behaviors produce results. Players must know what right looks like and feels like when it comes to behaviors. Define behaviors in observable terms. Stay away from the one word. We like to talk about the line of commitment. Athletes need to understand, okay, fine, it's that commitment piece. What price are you willing to pay? Well, together you need to establish what that line is, and their behaviors better be above the line rather than below the line. The decision to work either above the line or below the line, most important choice you make every day. When I was coaching basketball, we had, from the locker room going out to the court, there was a line. The players knew that when they crossed that line, guess what? Practice has started. Informally, they knew at that time they needed to be doing something on that court that would make them a better player. Very, very important. It's a mindset. But what drives behaviors? See, that's now, you have to dig deeper. What drives behaviors? Well, it's beliefs and values. What you value in your life, you find ways to do it. What you really believe in, you find ways to do it, and you put everything you have into it. Beliefs and values basically are the foundation of your culture. But now we have to go, what nurtures beliefs and values? Experiences. You as coaches, the experiences that you provide every day your athletes, they should be supporting your core beliefs and your values. But the other part that you always have to remember, because I was coaching at the university level, my athletes were 18 years old, 17 or 18 when they first came to me. Well, they've had 17 or 18 years of experiences with other coaches. So coaches, you have to take into consideration that. That can create a few challenges. Okay, let's look at that pathway again. And why I said this may be one of the most important things in my presentation today. I spent over half my career only on the right-hand side. I was really good at knowing what behaviors players needed to have. I knew what behaviors they needed to have on the court in order to produce the results that we needed. But then one day a mentor said to me, because I would say, I'm frustrated with so-and-so, I can't get their behavior, I can't get his behavior where I know it should be. And my mentor said, Ralph, I think you have to dig deeper. I didn't understand what he was talking about because I was just focused on that athlete and that behavior. And he said, you got to dig down deeper because maybe you should be thinking about there's something that player either doesn't believe or doesn't value the same way that you do. There's a disconnect. And I started realizing what he was saying. Because those players that are always above the line, they believe they're not doing it for the coach. See, my players, a lot of them, they were giving me just enough so they could be a starter or they were getting playing time. They were happy. But they weren't striving to be the ultimate best. They didn't really have that true belief or that value that great athletes, great people have. And then my mentor said, you need to find ways through experiences of trying to open that young man's mind. It's got to be his decision. It helped my coaching. My interaction with people today, I'm always thinking about those four boxes. Absolutely critical. But how do you do that? How do you transform beliefs and values into the behaviors? This is a template that I'm using with coaches with good success. I think it takes a little bit of time, but with the template you have the beliefs and values. It's what we believe and values. Remember, one of the first things you do with people is get their belief systems. It was one of the early slides. Okay, let's take, for example, the West Point study. We had those key points. Okay, the beliefs, great athletes are honest and trustworthy. Okay, we've covered all that. Now, if we just took that word trust, and if I asked everyone out here to write down your definition, what is trust and what behaviors constitute trust, we might have 25, 30, 50 different answers. Great coaches get their players to have a common language. Trust has to mean the same thing for everyone. So in other words, if that's the case, it's getting people on that same page. In workshops right now, what I'd end up doing is I'd have people reflect on what specific behaviors do you believe lead to trust? And everyone writes it down. And then I put them in a small group. I could do it with teams, okay? And they talk about it. Because ultimately, you as a team, everyone has to agree on what trust looks like. See, with coaches, sometimes we just say, well, trust. Our team, everyone's got to trust each other. Dig deeper. It's got to be the behaviors. The players have to know what right looks like and feels like. So if you look at it, it may be simple things like this, okay? Speak the truth. Do what you say you will do. So on that, going back to that template, we speak the truth. We are dependable and do what we say we will do. We live our lives with integrity. We do what is right. You do that for each, whatever your beliefs are. Sit down and do it with your assistant coaches. Sit down and do it with your team captain. You'll be amazed at where you can go with this when you get people working together to suddenly come up with what right looks like. Go get that word like trust or commitment, but then take it further into what that really is. And then with the results, remember I said results are things that you can control? They're not outcomes. So I try to get coaches so they're not saying, well, we're going to win the championship. That will be the result. No, that will be an outcome. The result will be these types of things. Look at trust. Our high level of trust creates a sense of family. We bond together as a selfless unit. If you want more information, my contact information will be up. Contact me. This is, to me, as far as when it comes to the coach development, this is really important. If you're trying to if you think culture is important and you're going to spend time helping coaches understand about culture, slowly but surely get them to the point where they create a template, something like this, where they're getting this all written down. And eventually, once the coaches have it, have them sit down with their athletes, their internal team leaders, get their opinions on it so that you can build it together. That's when it really matters. I had a perfect example. I'm a consultant at the University of Minnesota with the women's soccer, their football team. And just finished my fourth year. The seniors have been in the program 4 years. The culture that they have built because of the head coach, but also because of the players, the internal players, they were able to do things like this in a heartbeat. And the results this year on the field, they win the Big Ten championship, just everything about their program skyrocketed because the players took more ownership of it, and we as coaches did a better job of connecting them to what we thought would be the most important things. Very quickly, just developing good people. Goes back to a New Zealand saying from the Maoris, it is people, it is people, it is people. It's the people that make the structure and the process work. Selecting the right people. Know what you're trying to get. At West Point, we called them a warrior athlete, a character. We define what right looked like with specific behaviors. A team player, so they're unselfish. They combine mental toughness, perseverance, and athletic skill with sportsmanship and fair play. A teachable spirit, drive. They have the courage and the commitment to act with respect and integrity both on and off the field. Very important. With the strong support, these things right here, we feel, as we're working with coaches with building a culture, we ask them to consider when they're make sure you have a purpose, a vision, core values, standards, and results. It starts with why, with your purpose. A vision, you have to articulate a clear and compelling vision. Combining your purpose and vision creates powerful images. If you look at some of the big companies, they do it. Apple does a great job. They combine their purpose and their vision to make a contribution to the world by making tools for the mind that advance humankind. At West Point, what we did with our competitive sport program, we wanted to become the premier sport program in the United States for teaching character through sport. And our purposes were producing global leaders of character. I mean, that's why we were doing this. Make sure that you look at your purpose, look at your vision. Again, if you connect them, you can open new worlds. You've got to be able to market it to your players, get people excited about what you're doing. Core values. Core values not only give you a unique identity and a standard, they're the glue that holds it all together. I call core values your emergency generator. When something goes wrong with your team, when all of a sudden you have challenges, your core values is what takes your team and gets them back on track. It provides a moral compass to decision making, are the heart and soul of a team. Standards. Define the behaviors. You've heard me say over and over again, behaviors. We're trying to get players to help us. The players helped us create these. The gold standard. See, that's above the line. That's everything that we're wanting them to do. And they say they want to do it too. The last piece is implementing a productive process. And I'll go through this real quick, but this is really the TLC piece of the framework. Because what we're doing in that program, we're trying to develop talented leaders of character and teams of greatness. So let's take talent development. There's 3 areas in our curriculum. Fundamentals of greatness, the greatness code, 7 cardinal rules of life. The fundamentals of greatness are what we talked about. Those are the West Point findings. The greatness code, we're helping athletes and coaches look at what we consider are the key areas in order to get that team to be the best that they can. You can see the different building blocks. But ultimately now we want them to get the 7 cardinal rules of life. Live your life with integrity, take control of what you can, decide what you want, then act and pay the price, believe in yourself, refuse to quit, and be a team player. A lot of these are intangibles. I'm big on the intangibles. To me, the intangibles are those things, they're like the X factors. Talent alone is not enough. You've got to get the intangibles to help teams become the best they can. With leader development, we work on 3 areas, and the one single piece that helps more than anything else with the success of TLC is self-leadership. Before you can lead others, you have to be able to lead yourself. Here's our core beliefs. Leadership is a role, not just a designated title. A lot of people think a leader is only a team captain. Every athlete on a team has leadership responsibilities. Because every athlete on the team has to be a self-leader. There's 8 different modules that we work with athletes. You can read them on the right-hand side. To us, if we start with a first-year student, a freshman in college, every one of those freshmen, as they're going through the process, we're working with them on those 8 different areas. We continue working with them all 4 years on those 8 years. You always have to be a self-leader. It's absolutely probably the point of difference, I think, in our curriculum that is helping more than anything else is our emphasis on self-leadership. Here's the leadership roles. I said everyone has one on a team. You're normally playing 2 roles at one time, or sometimes 3. The next area is relationships. You can see on the right-hand side the key points. The third area is teamwork, and now you're putting it all together. You're getting players so that they're contributing. Now they're not just having relationships with another player or something. Now we're talking about team and things that are going to help that team be the very best that they can. The last building block on greatness to me, and Mike Krzyzewski and I have talked about this, and he echoes it, and I truly believe it. Coach K was our Olympic coach and also head men's basketball coach at Duke University. It's peer accountability. You know your team's going to be great when you start having peer accountability. It's one of the hardest things to get young people to do is hold each other accountable to above-the-line behaviors. The last piece is the character development. And with the character development, we look at we like to say there's 2 types of development. There's moral character and performance character. You can see the moral character, the values that impact ethical behaviors and relationships. You can see the examples. Performance character, I think coaches are some of the best teachers of performance character, but you have to kind of open their eyes to the fact that they are teaching character. Hopefully they're teaching moral character, but the coaches, a lot of them are just outstanding at teaching performance character. Look at the definition of performance character. It's qualities that promote mastery and excellence in a specific environment. It's all those things that you would love your players to have. In closing, always remember that each of you do make a difference. One small act has a ripple effect and can make an enormous impact in a young person's life. We build cultures of greatness in sport by developing coaches and athletes of character. When it comes to developing character through sport, one athlete of character can improve a team. One team of character can improve a school. One school of character can improve a community. One community of character can improve a nation. all of you that are teaching and modeling character through sport are giving the coaching profession eternal value. You realize that sport has a higher purpose than just winning on a scoreboard. True winning is about developing athletes to reach their potential as individuals, as team members, and as future leaders. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm thoroughly enjoying my time in Japan, and if you ever have questions, here is my contact information. Thank you very much.